Hello, this is Business Live from the BBC with Sally Bundock and Ben Thompson.
The clock is ticking, but can the massive transatlantic trade deal be saved before the end of the year?
Live from London, it's our top story today, Monday, the 25th of April. Despite fierce protests on both sides of the Atlantic, talks resume on the controversial Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. But is there even a future for the trade deal once Obama leaves office in November? We will examine the details. Hello to you, a very warm welcome to the programme. We're going to start with the transatlantic deal that was designed to boost trade and investment, but has been mired in controversy. Today, talks resume on TTIP, as it's known, as President Obama tries to beat the clock to complete negotiations this year before the end of his presidency. Well, whilst meeting Angela Merkel in Germany yesterday, he called on all European leaders to support the deal and not let the opportunity close. Well, diplomats from both the US and the EU, they'll meet later today to discuss the deal. It's already been 3 years in the making. Well, TTIP, that aims to slash almost all tariffs on trade between the US and the EU and cut regulation to make business cheaper and easier. Well, one study suggests that the potential gain for the EU and US economies, well, that could top $240 billion. But despite the benefits, it has faced some pretty fierce criticism, including claims that simplifying regulations between the EU and the US will lead to lower standards of consumer and environmental protection and safety at work. There is also widespread opposition to rules that would let companies sue foreign governments over claims of unfair treatment. Now, critics say it will undermine the power of governments to act in the interests of their citizens. Sally.
Thank you, Ben. Well, Stephanie Hare is an independent political risk analyst. Stephanie, thank you for coming in. Ben outlining some of the issues there. We also saw images of thousands of people in the streets of Hanover in Germany yesterday, where President Obama was. What is the likelihood of him achieving his goal, i.e. getting negotiations sorted before he leaves office?
He can maybe get the negotiations sorted before he leaves office, but there is zero chance of congressional approval while he is still president. Now, that doesn't mean that it couldn't still be approved. There's plenty of precedents before of Congress approving a deal that was negotiated by a previous president.
What are the sort of key hurdles still?
Well, they've got to talk about, all sorts of things. We're looking at data protection still. We're looking at standards for the environment, for health. Public procurement is a big thing, trying to make it so that we can have it where European countries can get access to public procurement tenders in U.S. contracts and vice versa. Those are going to be some of the big hurdles still, and there's a lot to go. That doesn't mean that it can't be done, but I think it's going to be very ambitious to have it done certainly by November, when we have to remember we've got an election going on in the United States.
The voice of the critics, though, on both sides of the Atlantic getting louder, yeah. and the numbers growing as well. A lot of criticism about the fact that most of this has been done in secret. Is that fair or not?
I find that criticism to be the oddest of the criticisms one could make, because negotiations are by their very nature done in secret. The democratic process is going to happen afterwards. We've just talked about the fact that Congress could still approve. All of the European member states' parliaments will have to ratify this deal. So if people are unhappy with the deal once it is finalized, they will still have a chance to express their will through lobbying their MPs, for instance.
And we've talked about the difficulty with regards to Congress and its approval, but also here in Europe, such a long road ahead. You know, the European Union has to see it through, and not to mention national governments, and we could be in a situation where the UK is not involved at all, depending on June the 23rd.
That's right. We've got potential Brexit on June the 23rd, which would not stop this deal. It would just mean that the UK would not be part of it. And President Obama said that if the UK chooses to leave the European Union, it would go to the back of the queue when it comes to negotiating a new bilateral trade agreement with the United States. So that's worth bearing in mind. We've also got presidential elections coming up in France in 2017, an election in Germany as well. So there's a lot of political volatility in the air, but we have to remember that these trade negotiations often take a lot of time. There's no reason for that to derail it necessarily. The real question is it a good deal?
All right, Stephanie, we can't answer that one now, but we will in the future. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
So interesting. So much still to work through there.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll keep you across that as we get any more information, but let's bring you up to date with some of the other news today. Hello, you're with Business Live. Our top story today, the talks continue over the Transatlantic Trade Partnership, whether it will actually get the go-ahead, whether they will manage to sign the deal, that trade deal between the EU and the United States. before the end of President Obama's term in office.
It's the 13th round of talks that get underway in New York today, so we'll see if any progress is made
Maybe
there.
they're lucky for the 13th. Let's see.
You never know.